Hi, I'm Greg Howlett. Welcome to a new year. I'm going to give you an assignment this year, something that you can work on this entire year, and if it takes all year, that's okay. It's very, very important. I want to talk about the foundational harmony of moving around the circle of fifths, and I'm going to give you an assignment that will teach you how to do it. This is the sound, by the way. That is a chord progression that moves around the circle of fifths, moving down by a fifth. In that case, it was 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. I want to teach you that. Again, it's important not only to learn it, but learn it in every key. So here's your assignment. What we're going to do is we're going to start with something basic, the most basic progression of all, the simplest progression of all, the 5-1. Of course, for it to be a progression, there has to be at least 2 chords. So we're going to start with a 2-chord progression, the 5-1 progression that you see all over practically every piece you play. It goes like this. Okay, so we're in the key of C, so we're going to play G, C. 5, moving down a fifth to 1. Okay, so I want you to do that, and I want you to learn it in the key of C. But then I want you to move around the circle of fifths from key to key and play a 5-1 in every key. So you're going to play it in the key of C, then you're going to move to the key of F. Go down a fifth and play this. Okay? Move down a fifth to the key of B flat and play a 5-1 there, which is F to B flat. Okay? And then we're moving to E flat and we're going to play. And then you move to A flat and then D flat, G flat, which is F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, and you're back to C. There's 12 keys. So you'll play all the way around the circle and you'll get back to where you started. So you're going to play 5-1 all the way around the circle. Now you might say, Greg, how should I play the 5-1? And the answer is I don't really care. I don't care how you voice it. I guess I do care, but I don't want to limit you. You can arpeggiate it if you want. You can play it really simple if you want. As a matter of fact, I want you to play it differently every time you play it. Don't get hung up on a certain little melody on top of it. Play something intentional in the melody. Be careful with how it sounds. But there's no specific melody that I want you to play on top of that progression. Do that. Now, it may take you a week, it may take 2 weeks to get to the point where you can do that smoothly in every key. If it takes that long, that's fine. But when you're ready to move on, I want you to add a chord in front of the 5 chords. So now we're going to have a 3-chord progression. And again, when we're using this circle of fifths thing, the chord that goes in front of the 5 chord is the 2 chord. The reason why is because if you're on G in the key of C and you go up a perfect fifth, you go to D. D is your 2 chord. You probably are familiar with the 2-5-1 progression. The 5-1 is very famous. The 2-5-1 is the second most famous progression in music. There it is in the key of C and the key of F. Moving on to B flat, E flat, A flat, and so on, then to D flat, and so on around the circle. So I want you to get to the point where you can play the 2-5-1 progression all the way around. Now, when you're done with that, a month or 2 down, maybe we're in February or March by this time, I want you to go ahead and add a new chord to the progression. And that chord is going to be your 6th chord. 6th chord in the key of C is A, moving down a fifth to 2, which is D, down a fifth to G, and down a fifth to C. So we're playing 6, 2, 5, 1 all the way around the circle. And then you go to the key of F. Again, don't worry if you can't play beautiful melodies on top of these progressions at the beginning, but work toward that that goal. By the way, just play notes that belong to the key. If you're in the key of F, play notes that belong to the key of F, and likely it'll sound pretty good. That's all I'm thinking. when I'm doing that. So we're going to play 6, 2, 5, 1 all the way around the circle. And did I get that right? 6, 2, 5, 1. And you're going to play it in all 12 keys, get it to the point where you can do it well. And then guess what? We're going to add a chord in front of the 6th chord. And it's going to be the 3 chord. So we're on 6, which is A. Going up a 5th, you have E. So now our progression would be 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Or in the key of C, E, A, D, G, and C. Get that down, and then guess what? We're going to add a new chord, and that chord is going to be the 7 chord. Not a 7th chord. I'm talking about the 7 chord, which means it's the 7th degree of the key that or the scale of the key you're in. In the key of C, B. Okay? That, by the way, is a diminished triad or a half diminished 7th chord. Okay? I think in terms of 7th chords. You'll probably notice that all the chords I'm playing are 7th chords. I'll explain that in a second. But that means in the key of C, we're playing B, D, F, and A. Those notes are all diatonic, meaning they belong to the key. There are no black notes, in other words, in the key of C. And that creates, when you build that 7th chord, it creates what we call a half diminished chord, which is a diminished triad with the major third tacked on top. Or you could look at it as a diminished triad with the minor 7th added. We'll talk about that just a little more in a second. But here's your sound. Okay, what I did wrong there, just to let you know, is I got out of sequence with essentially counting. Certain chords sound better in certain places. So let's do it again. Okay, still, to be honest, that's a little bit clumsy, but it works. You'll sort of have a feel for how these chords just sort of naturally just sort of move with each other. You don't want to play 3, 6, 2. It's more like just let the chords sort of flow. And you want normally, you got to make sure the 1 chord is going to end up on normally a downbeat. If you play 6, let's say you play a 5 chord for the first 2 beats of a measure, you probably don't move to the C chord or the 1 chord until the next measure. So you'll go ahead and hold the 5 chord a little bit longer. No hard, fast rules there, but you'll sort of get a feel as you play through these. All right, one other chord that we need to add in front, and that's going to be your 4 chord. So now we're playing all 7 diatonic chords in a key. We're playing 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And some of you are saying, hold on, Greg, you got a problem. The 4 chord is not a perfect 5th above the 7, and it's not. It's a diminished 5th. You go ahead, as diminished 5th, you could call it, in other words, a perfect 5th minus 1 note, or, and I would think of it as tritone. You have a B. Technically, a perfect 5th above B in the key of C would be F sharp, right? Well, in any key. But if we're in the key of C playing the 7 chord, which is B, you would normally go up a perfect 5th, if you're going to follow these rules of perfect 5ths around the circle of 5ths, to F sharp. But F sharp doesn't belong in the key of C. F natural does. So this is the one exception. We're going to play an interval in this progression that is not a perfect 5th. We're going to play a 4 chord going down to the 7. Okay? And then you're going to play that. You're going to learn to play that progression all the way around the circle. When you learn, by the way, when you finish doing that, you're going to know this stuff very, very well. And you'll be able to apply it in songs. For example, Just As I Am is a perfect example. If I was playing Just As I Am, which is written in the hymnal, is just a very basic 1-5-1 progression for the first 4 bars, I would do something like this. Okay, so what I just did was I played a 3-6-2-5-1 progression there. A lot of times you can substitute a 3-6-2-5-1 for a 5-1, or you can substitute a 2-5-1 for a 5-1, or a 6-2-5-1 for a 5-1. All kinds of possibilities. But that's what I did. I just used the harmony that we're using here, that we're learning here, and I applied it to a song. You'll get to the point. Maybe it's November before you get to that point, but if you practice this for a while, you'll get to the point where you apply that. And then one other little thing I need to talk to you really quick about before we close on this is the fact that I am coloring these chords. And I'm doing that, first of all, by adding sevenths to the chords. Every chord is getting a seventh. The rule of thumb is this: the 1 and the 4 chords are going to get a major seventh added to them, which means that's the note that is 1/2 step down from the root. Okay, so if we're in the key of C, I'm adding a B flat, a B natural to that chord. The 4 chord in the key of C is F, and I'm adding an E natural to that chord. Okay, so if I play a C chord, for example, I'm going to have a sound that's a little more complex than just a triad. Same thing goes with an F chord. Okay, so that's a good rule of thumb, something that you would be well advised to learn if you like that sound. Is strictly for color, but if you can add the major sevenths to your 1 and 4 chords, that'll really help. And then every single other chord I add the minor seventh to. The minor seventh is 2/2 steps down from the root. So if you played a C triad and you wanted to add a minor seventh, you would go down 2/2 steps and play a B flat. Okay, so the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 chord, and the 7 chord, I'm adding a seventh, a minor seventh to all those. Okay, so around the circle, here's your 4 chord. I have an E natural, which is a major seventh added. Moving down to the 7 chord, I added a it's on top. That is your minor seventh. And then I'm moving to 3, and I'm adding a D to that chord. That's the E minor chord, but I'm adding a D. A minor, I add a G. D minor, I add a C. And then a G chord, adding an F. And then I'm back to the 1 chord, B natural, which is your major seventh. So I add the sevenths for color. I'm adding other notes for color too that you may or may not hear, but that's a story for another, or a lesson from another time. Or you can get maybe my course on reharmonization, which talks about all those kind of things in greater detail. So work on this for a year. It'll pay off big, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.